Hello bookworms, I'm Becca, and today I'm going to be talking about We Were Liars by Lockhart. 15-year-old Cadence Sinclair comes from a family where power and possessions mean everything. In fact, her grandparents own an entire island off the coast of Martha's Vineyard where the family vacations each summer, and each family unit has their own house. Cadence spends her days with two of her cousins and her cousin's friend, who the family collectively nicknamed the LIARS when they were young. This year, friendships grow deeper and relationships blossom until an accident occurs, and as a result, Cadence doesn't remember anything. Now, 3 years later, Cadence returns to the island in search of answers. But will she like what she finds? I'd like to start off by saying that I did listen to the audiobook version of We Were Liars, and I think this is one of the major reasons that I ended up enjoying the book so much. I honestly did not see any of the twists and turns coming, whereas if I was reading a physical book, I do believe that I would have started to piece things together quite early on. The way the story was woven together was really interesting, but sometimes it was a little difficult to follow while listening to it, because as Cadence starts remembering more things, the story starts flashing back to summer 15, as Cadence calls it, and because it will do that right in the middle of a chapter, when you're listening to it, it became difficult to follow. And in those flashbacks, I was really shocked at how intense the events and memories were becoming. The story also had a few fairy tale-esque chapters in which Cadence is literally telling you a fairy tale, and I did not particularly care for that element of the story. I found them really hard to understand, and even though they were meant to be more metaphoric, I found them confusing and was often left trying to decipher what the true meaning was behind these stories and how it connected to the larger story. Most of the characters felt really well developed, and a few of them even referenced their lives outside of the island, which was a really nice touch. But I did think that Marion, who is one of the liars and also the person that Cadence seems to be the closest with, never felt fully real, if that makes any sense. There was just something strange about the writing of that character. I don't know how to put my finger on it, except that it just didn't feel like she was a real person. Also, with everything and how the way Cadence was written, I do think the author was trying a little bit too hard to create an unreliable narrator. The pacing of the story, other than that, seemed to flow really nicely, except for the fairy tale parts that did pull away from the flow of the story, and the ending was entirely too long for me. After the twist was revealed, I still had 30 minutes left on the recording, and the story took a really strange and, in my opinion, unnecessary turn in attempts to wrap up these characters, which left me feeling really confused, and as a result left a lot of unanswered questions, but not for dramatic effect. They just never talked about certain things again, and those are the questions that I find myself wondering about, is those little details that they just never brought up again in attempts to make Cadence seem more unreliable. Strangely enough, I still ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and like I mentioned, I really do think this is solely because of listening to it instead of reading a physical copy of it. The twists and turns and how the story unfolded and how dark and disturbing the story became left both my fiance and myself utterly speechless, and I'm still thinking about the story and the characters at least a week after I finished listening to this book. So all of that being said, I definitely recommend listening to the audiobook version instead of reading a physical copy. Cadence Sinclair has a seemingly perfect life, but behind closed doors, every family has their secrets. When everyone seems to be lying, you have to ask yourself, are you prepared for the truth?